Thanks for coming back to my channel. This is a tutorial for my Love You Forever mini album. It's a 7x6 book with a 3-inch spine. I have done a walkthrough of this book already, so if you take a look at my channel, you'll see that. I'm going to do kind of a abbreviated tutorial, and then I'm not going to do every single page. There are 2 page styles in this book. So we have waterfalls on front and back that are exactly the same, and we have 2 page styles that are exactly the same. So this is 1 page style, and they all have the same inserts that come out. And then this is the 2nd page style, where you have a pocket and a pocket, and then again you have the pull out on the back. So I'm going to be showing you how to do the waterfall and the 2 page styles and the insert, but I'm not going to do all 5 pages. Okay, but I will show you how to construct the cover and all the other, everything you need to know I'm going to show you. I'm just going to not do the whole book. So to get started, you're going to need heavyweight chipboard, and you're going to need 2 pieces that are 7x6 and 1 that is 3x6. Now, for this tutorial, I'm using lightweight chipboard. I don't like that, but that's what I had handy for scraps. So I would use the heavyweight. The chipboard should have adhesive on the back. I usually use a score sheet so that it's fully covered. Because this is a demo book and I'm not going to keep it, I didn't want to waste, so I just used some extra score tape that I had. So you're going to want to place the score tape on all of your pieces, all 3. Again, you might want to do more coverage than what I'm doing. I already wrapped one of the covers so you can get an idea of where we're going. We're going to wrap each piece separately. So I'm going to start by showing you how to wrap the front and back cover. So like I said, I've done one, like so. So I use spacers to help with this step. These are 1-inch spacers because you want a 1-inch border of paper on your cover. So the cover pieces you're going to want to cut to get ready are 2 that are 9x8, and that's to wrap the front and back cover. You're going to want 1 that is 6x8, and that is for the spine, and then 1 that's 5x5 7/8, and that's for the inside of the spine to cover the inside. Okay, so you might want to write that down or take a screenshot. I always label my paper with sticky notes. I do not type them in the description box just to save myself some time. So go ahead and have a notebook handy. All right, so let's go ahead then and show you. The book is actually 7 inches across and 6 inches tall. So I'm going to place my 9x8. You always go 2 inches bigger than what your chipboard is. So because this was 7, I went 9. That gives you 1 inch on each side. And because it's 6 tall, I went with 8, 1 at the top and the bottom. So go ahead and place your paper. We're having a 1-inch border on the 2 sides here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing of my score tape. And it's much easier with the score sheets also on this part because one big sheet and it comes off really fast. These I have to do individually. I don't ever use glue to put my cover paper on. I don't want to take a chance of seeing the glue marks or the little ripply things, and so I always use the tape. But you can use glue if that's what you're used to. Now this is what's called the lay flat album cover. This was designed by Tammy Merrill from Country Craft Creations. That's who this tutorial is for. It's an online craft store. So then you're going to want to make sure, also with white, you get marks on your paper. And this, I usually use Artisan cardstock. It's exclusively sold at Country Craft Creations. It's the best paper I've used. The paper I'm using for this tutorial is not, again, it's scratch paper, so that because I'm not keeping the book and I don't want to waste. But this whole book I used the Artisan cardstock, and the color I used was the linen. It's kind of a cream color. I think that's what it's called anyway. All right, so then once you have your chipboard on with the 1-inch border, you're going to want to fold it over and crease it. Now I have to be careful when I am scoring and when I am burnishing this paper because it's not as durable as what I'm used to. But if you're using Artisan, you should have no problem whatsoever. Now some people do the corners differently than I do. They cut out the whole square. where the lines intersect, they cut out this square on all 4 corners. I have a tool that I like to use that I miter. I like the look of it at an angle, even though you don't really see a whole lot of it once your book is made. I'm just, I guess, a creature of habit, and that's what I like to do. So I am mitering instead of taking out the squares. Okay. Now I like to put a perimeter of 1/2 inch score tape along the perimeter of my chipboard. I'm not doing that for this one, but normally I would. And then I'm going to go ahead and use glue, wet glue, the art glitter glue, for the rest of the cover. I put a line of the glue up against the chipboard so that the paper wraps nicely around it. And then you bring it up and over and make sure you flatten it out so you don't have any ripples. And you want to adhere that by using your burnishing tool. Make sure it lays down real flat. And if this were the medium weight chipboard, which is what I usually use, I just take my bone folder and go across the edge to make sure it's on that chipboard nice and smooth. I do the opposite side then. And bring that up and over. And burnish that. Get rid of any excess glue that comes out. So now, because I do my corners different, I do need to tuck in this little excess piece. I just kind of push it in and flatten it down. And that makes sure that your corner is covered with paper. So in and down. And now I can finish it just like I did the other sides. Put your glue along the chipboard. Bring that up and over. And burnish. This method is a lot easier to work with because sometimes your books are really large, and if you have to combine all your paper to make one long piece of paper to wrap your book, it gets a little obnoxious to work with. So by doing these individually like this, not only do you get the benefit of having it lay flat, but you also have the benefit of it easier to put together too. All right, so you should have 2 of those when you're done, the front and the back, and it's actually going to go this way, okay? Now, my spine is 3 inches. I could have gone maybe a 1/2 inch smaller, but I chose to make it bigger because I did not include a tie closure or anything. So by having it a little bit bigger, I know my book is going to stay closed. It's not going to be an alligator mouth. And so that's why I went with 3. Now, when you do the spine, you still use the 1 inch border for the top and the bottom when you are wrapping your paper. However, there is also a 1.5 inch spacer that comes with it when you order it from Country Craft Creations. And usually we go with a 1.5 inch border on the sides of our spine. And that is because you're going to be leaving those wings out and they attach to the front and back cover. So we like a little bit of extra. So I'm going to place my paper. So this one you go 3 inches wider. So because my spine is 3, that's why I went with 6, 1.5 on each side. And it is 6 inches tall, so I went 1 inch on each side to give me the 8. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take off my backing. This one we do a little bit different. We don't fully wrap all 4 sides. We'll see that in a second here. So this can be done with any size book that you make. You can adapt it. If you don't have the acrylic spacers, you can cut medium chipboard so that you have those sizes handy all the time. That's what we did before Tammy had them made. All right, and we're just going to lay that up against the top and the side piece here. I'm done with my spacers. And I want to make sure that I burnish that. All right, so we do this a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and bring the book or the paper around the edges of the chipboard and burnish it. I'm going to do the sides too, the long sides. But you'll see that we do something a little bit different, like I said. All right, so I want to get rid of some bulk. Now I do this the original way that Tammy did it. She does hers a little bit different now. She also cuts out the squares. I'm going to go ahead and cut at an angle here. So it looks like so. Looks like a large taper or miter. And I'm going to do that to all four corners. So just cut it at an angle from one square mark to the other. All right, so we are going to be bringing the short sides and gluing them down. We're leaving these wings open. So I'm going to go ahead and place just a tiny little bit of glue on either side of this chipboard on the side, just a little. And go ahead and fill in your glue on that trapezoid shape. So all three panels there. Bring it up and over. And we want to burnish that down. We want to make sure that that paper sticks to our chipboard. Again, I'm not using my durable paper, so I have to be careful. And burnish that, and I go ahead and make sure it adheres to the chipboard. I'm going to do that again on the opposite side. Again, this is the short side I'm working with. And I'm putting glue on those three pieces that make a trapezoid. Bringing it up and over. And I'm going to press down and I'm going to tuck that paper up against the chipboard. And then I'm going to burnish it. All right. Now, when you attach the book, you're going to have it attached like so. I am going to, maybe I'm not. Usually I lightly miter right here. I'm going to leave these because they're pretty much exactly right. But you can make sure that you don't have any paper sticking up on the top of your cover if you slightly miter. The only thing about that then is that you do see a little bit, I better do it. Listen to me. All right, I'm going to just slightly taper, just a little triangle off there. So I just rest my scissors up against the chipboard. And I just want a slight one. All right, that's how you normally do it anyway. Okay, let me clean up some of this mess real quick. Okay. Now what you want to do also with your spine piece is you want to burnish the opposite side so that the paper is right up against that chipboard, so you'll see a ridge. That is a guide also as to where we need to have the front and back cover line up against it. Okay, so you can see a definite ridge like so. So what we do then is we put the cover up against the spine piece. I'm going to leave a hair, not hardly any space at all. A lot of times I just bump it up to the chipboard, but I have found that I have a little bit better luck if I leave a 1/16 of an inch, just like I said, a hair. So what I'm going to do, I usually put score tape on the outsides, the perimeter, and then I fill it in with glue. I'm just using glue this time. So I'm putting it pretty close to that bump that you see. Okay. And by using the glue, we can kind of wiggle it a little bit so that that glue gets to where we need it closer if we need. Okay, so I'm going to line this up almost to the chipboard. Like you probably can't even tell maybe on the camera that there is a hair of a space. So let me bring it closer. You see just a hair. Now I'm going to tip it, turn it back over and just make sure that that's adhered real well. And I'm going to do the same thing then on the opposite side for the other cover. I'm going to turn it this way just for right now. Not all the way to the chipboard, just close. Okay. Line it up. Almost touching the, there we go. Turn it over and burnish it. So you can see you have a nice neat book and it opens flat. Now we are going to put a piece of paper to cover up the chipboard on the inside, and so this piece I used is 5 by 5 7/8. If you want, you could do 6 by 6 7/8 so that it goes to the edge of these white papers. I had a piece of scrap paper, so I didn't, but if you go 6 inches instead of 5, you'll cover this paper that we use to combine the front and back cover. But mine's 5 by 5 7/8. So our book is 6 tall. You go 1/8 of an inch smaller, at least I do. And this part you do need to fully cover, I think, the back with score tape. I don't like to use the glue. Now again, I'm going to use my scrap score tape. Usually I use the sheets, but I'm not going to for this. So let me get my score tape on and then I'll show you the rest of the book. Okay, so because I'm not using the score sheets, I went ahead and put a little bit of score tape here and on the back of here. So I need to remove all this backing. Life is much easier with score sheets, I think. You can use wet glue if you want. You're going to be putting your hinge on top, so you may not see the glue marks. But I don't know. I don't really like to use it. I've had some ripply things that I just don't like. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and try and do this quickly, but when they're individual like this, it takes me a while. And here we go. Fast forward through this part if you want. One more. All right, so I'm going to center this top and bottom. So look at the top of your book and the bottom of your book, side to side. All right, I want to make sure that goes inside there. Make sure it goes inside on this side of the spine. And I don't want to do it too much because, like I said, this paper is not the Artisan, so I got to be real careful. All right, so this is our cover for the 7 by 6 book. So now we're going to do the hinge that we'll place inside here. So you're going to want get a piece that is 5 7/8 tall by 7 inches wide. Okay, so it's 7 inches by 5 7/8. Now for the hinge, you're going to place your paper so that the 7 inches is across the top, and you're going to want to score at every 1/2 inch. So starting with 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Okay, all the way down. So now I'm going to work with my paper a little bit. Now I'm actually going to shave just a tiny, tiny bit off of each end, and that's so that it lays nice and flat on our book, and I mean just a smidge, like hardly any. That one you can't even tell. Let's see. There we go. All right. So what you do is you take the first 2 rectangles, the long rectangles, and those are going to become a hinge, but I'm going to burnish everything first, but this will be how we start. We're going to connect rectangle 1 and 2 and glue them together, and that becomes hinge number 1. So you might be familiar with books that have hinges and then they have like the wings to attach to the front and back cover. This does not do it that way. It's just a hinge. All right, so then the third rectangle is actually going to be a gusset, and then we're going to have 4 and 5 become a hinge. So that's what we have so far. Then the next one is the gusset. So once I get all this burnished, I will show you how to attach it to your book. So there's 3. I like to check to make sure that I'm staying lined up top and bottom as I burnish. Sometimes it can get off a little bit. And then the last one. So you can see why I cut just a hair off on the end. I don't want it to go down lower than the bottom so that it kind of sticks up a little bit from my book. So that's why I shaved just a hair off on each end. So then all you need to do is take your wet glue, at least that's what I use, and I'm going to glue the 2 pieces together that make the hinge. So starting with 1 and 2, I just put glue on one of those. And pinch it together, burnish it. Okay, and then I'm going to keep gluing so that I have a total of 5 hinges. This book has 5 pages. Fold it over, pinch it, burnish it. Normally I use my burnishing tool, but this paper's thinner, so I'm not going to. There's the 4th one. And finally the last one. All right, so there is our hinge piece with 5 hinges and 4 gussets. Now, I have always covered this with cardstock. Some people put pattern paper right here, and you are more than welcome to do that. What I end up doing usually is putting this down, and then sometimes I go and put 3/8 inch strips in between. Just kind of depends. So you're going to want to center this also. So you might want to push those two end pieces in and see that you have a 1/2 inch on each side. Let me show you one other thing. I gotta find the 1/2 inch. Is this 1/2 inch? Nope, that's 3/8. There are spacers that are sold also. They're great for card makers, but I'm going to lay the 1/2 inch down on my spine and bump up one end, and then it should be lined up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back. And I am usually generous with the glue on this part. Okay, so let's make sure that that's lined up. I'm going to bump this up against my scoreboard. And I need to center it, top and bottom. Okay, and then burnish that down. And you want to make sure that your hinges move freely back and forth both directions. All right, so let's move on to the next step, pages. Okay, so I'm going to move this off to the side for right now. And where's my pen? All right, so for cutting purposes, for pages, for the base pages, you're going to need 5 of these. They're 5 7/8 by 12 because our pages are going to be 6 inches wide and 5 7/8 inches tall. Okay, because our book is 6, I did not want the pages to be 6, so that's why I got rid of 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so you're going to get 5 of these. You're going to score all of them in half at the 6 inches. So place your 12 inches across the top, score at 6, and do that for all 5 pieces. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and burnish those. Make sure that they line up nice and neat once you're folding them, so kind of eyeball it and make sure that it looks good. And this paper, okay. Now I'm just doing 2 because there are 2 page styles and I'm not doing a whole new book, so I'm just going to do 2. Okay, so fold all of them in half. You should have 5. Okay, now on each of our pages, we are going to have an insert that you put down on the top of the book. So all of these have an insert that comes out. Okay, that's what we're going to cut next. You'll need 5 that are 5.5 by 11 and 5 that are 1.5 by 6.5. This becomes the belly band on one side. So go ahead and put your 11 inches across the top and score at 5.5 on all of them. And on the 1.5 by 6.5 inch pieces, place the 6.5 inches across the top, score at 1/2 and at 6 so that you have 1/2 inch borders. And go ahead and burnish those. And all right, we are going to center the belly band so it opens to the top. It opens to the top. On the front, we're going to center a belly band, and you can measure it or you can eyeball it. I'm an eyeballer person. Okay, so just put adhesive on the 1/2 inch pieces. Come on, glue. And I'll lay down one side first and kind of eyeball it. And then lay it flat. That works for me. Now when I did mine, I went ahead and I used my corner rounder on the front page only. That's up to you. Okay. Now when you cover this, you do need paper to go underneath. However, instead of doing one long sheet, you could cut about 2.5 inch pieces, and then it'll just go a little bit underneath, so it's not so hard to mat it. I always go 1/8 of an inch smaller when I mat. Okay. All right, so those are your 5 inserts, and I just did plain paper, black solid here, patterned on the top. I did black on my belly band, and then I added a cut apart on the top to add some excitement. All right, let's move on then to waterfalls. There are 2 waterfalls. The waterfalls are on the front and the back cover, so you're going to need 12 that measure 5 inches across and 5 7/8 inches tall. You'll need 12, 6 for the front cover and 6 for the back cover. And you'll need 2 closures. These measure 5 by 1.5. On the 5 by 1.5 inch piece, I went ahead and put the 5 inches across the top and scored at 1/2. I used magnets on this part also. I used a 1 magnet set for the front cover, 1 magnet set for the back cover. On your 5 by 5 7/8 inch pieces, you're going to place the 5 inches across the top and score at 1/2. Okay. I also did a border punch on my pages. So the side opposite of the score, I just did the corners like so. It's up to you if you want a decorative border. So let's go ahead and burnish all of our 1/2 inch score marks. Come on. There we go. So I am just doing 6 just for the front, and I'm going to go ahead and finish doing the corners on all of them because I did it on the first one. So these end up being 4.5 inches across. So when you're matting, instead of going 4.5, you're going to go 4 3/8. Because these are 5 7/8 inches tall, you're going to go 5 3/4 inches for your mat. So always 1/8 of an inch is what I do. shorter. Oopsie, that was not good. Ugh, that's really bad. Normally I would fix it. I'm not going to because this is a sample. And I have one more. All right, so 6 of those and 1 of these. All right, so go ahead and get your book, and you'll do the front and back cover at the same time. So the front, they're going to open from the right hand side out. And on the back cover, did I do it the same way? On the back cover, I started over here. I did from the inside out. Okay. So the score mark would be on the right hand side. And on this front cover, the score is on the left hand side. All right. So I did not put pattern paper first, because this is 5 7/8, and I do bump it up pretty close to the edge of the book. I leave about a 1/16 of an inch from the edge, but it's almost to the very edge. I'm going to scoot it over a little bit more, like a hair, just a hair. And then you're going to eyeball the top and the bottom. Now, normally I use my scoreboard as a guide. This I can't because the waterfall is not the same width. It's 1/8 of an inch shorter. And so I can't just bump it up against my scoreboard and use that as a guide because it'll be off a little bit. So this one's a little bit tricky. You got to have a good eye. So you're going to place your glue on your 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn my book sideways. This is my front cover. I'm going to put it almost to the very edge, and I have to eyeball the top and the bottom, and I want it as straight as I can. So I'm going to gently lay it down before I push down, and I can see that these are pretty much even, and so then I'll press down. So then you always bump up the next piece right against the 1/2 inch that you glued down. So we're going to be gluing this right up against there. Okay. So eyeball before you push all the way down. So bump it up against, can you see, the 1/2 inch. Lightly lay it down. You might also want to lay this down to see if they line up, and if they do, press down. And you do that 4 more times. Again, gently bump it up against the 1/2 inch. Slightly lay it down, look top and bottom, kind of close it, see if they line up. If they do, press down. And that's how you're going to keep it as even as possible. So far, so good. Yep, that worked. And I have 2 left. And then our closure is magnetic, if I didn't already say that. And I use the basic gray magnets from Country Craft Creations. I use the larger size. She sells 2 sizes. I like the larger ones. Okay, that one's not even. Now it is. And one more. Pretty good. Lined up nice on this one. All right, so you will then put your closure piece, because right here, and you're going to want to center it. Do not go over, this is where your book bends, so you don't want it to go over that connector from the spine to the front cover. So scoot it in just a hair. Again, you can eyeball it, which is what I'm going to do, or you can measure it. And I'm just going to stick that underneath there. And that looks pretty good. So all you have to do then is put pattern paper here. You don't waste that whole big piece. So you're going to place a magnet here. And then you'll put both pieces together, both of the magnets, and then you will close it, and it should then, the sticky should make it stick here on the front, okay? If you want a magnetic closure. I don't know what else you would do though. Okay, let me, hold on. Okay, so remember when you do this side, you're going to put your score marks on the right hand side, and you're going to start on this end and go towards the center so that your closure piece will be near the spine also. Okay. Now at this point you can decide whether you want to put your pages in first or if you want to decorate your pages first. So let me show you the difference. So this was our 5 7/8 by 12-inch piece that we scored at 6. So you can lay this in right now and put it almost to the end, or almost to the end, all the way in. And you're going to end up gluing. You'll hold that, put glue here, press down, then place glue, a thin line on the bottom, and put glue on the top of this 1/2 inch, and then close it so that you have your page. Now you want to make sure it's lined up. Mine wouldn't have been lined up because I didn't check. Like so, okay? When I say lined up, you want it even on the bottom and on the top. So you can do that now and then add stuff to your book as you go, or you can decorate and make your book pages and then put them in. That's what I'm going to do this time. So I'm going to go ahead and move the cover off to the side. And there are 2 different page styles, like I said. So let me give you the measurements for those. And I'll give you the measurements for both page styles so you can get all of them cut at once if you want to. So style number 1 has an angled pocket and then a pocket on top of that. So here are the pieces you're going to need. There are 3 pages that I did this way. So you'll cut 3 of each of these. 3 that measure 6 1/2 by 6 3/8, and 3 that measure 7 by 2 1/2. Okay, now remember the backs are plain because that's where we put the insert, and it's got that belly band. So I didn't do anything on the back. Style 2, there are 2 pages like this, so you'll need 2 each of 4 1/2 by 6 7/8, and 2 that are 5 by 3. Okay, so I have my opening to my left, and I'm going to do the first page style. So you want to place your paper with the 6 1/2, 6 1/2, score it 1/2, and then turn it 1 time at 6 3/8 across the top, score it 1/2. So you just have scores on the left and then on the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and score the next one also. place the 7 inches across the top, score it a half, rotate it once so that the 2.5 is across the top, score it a half, and one more time with the 7 inches across the top, score it a half. So you have scores on 3 sides. So to prepare this small one, you'll notice that you see a square in the corner where the score marks intersected. I think you can see that. We're going to cut out the square, but I'm going to do it at an angle, like so. And I'm also going to miter the top. Do that to the other side also. Cut out the square at an angle, miter the top. I'll go ahead and burnish that while I'm at it. Okay, so that's your small pocket. Now for this one, we do want to cut it at an angle also, that one square that's in the corner. Okay, I'm going to angle the bottom and the top. Now you got to make sure that you have the 6.5 going this way. So I better double check that. Nope, that's my 6 3/8. Woohoo, I think. Did I do that? This is my 6.5. Yeah, so I have to bend this way. Okay, so now it should be 6 inches going this way. For these pages, we're going to cut a diagonal. So what you want to do is measure up, again, 6 inches across now that the tabs are folded back. I'm going to measure up 2 inches from the bottom, and I'm going to put a tick mark. My ruler's too long, so let me move it down a little bit. Darn, this paper's flimsy. All right, 2 inches up from the bottom. I'm going to put a little tick mark. I don't know if you can see that it's really tiny. And I'm going to take my cutter. I'm going to place the top left on one part of the cutter and then the tick mark I made at the other end. There you go. So that's our angled pocket. I'm going to get rid of that tick mark. I can see it. Okay, so then what you do is you place this pocket on top, and it should line up where, because this is 2 inches tall, and this is, we did the diagonal at 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my pocket on. Okay. So this will be open on this side, so it's easy to slide things in that angled pocket. So when you mat this, this is 5 7/8 inches tall, so cut a square that won't be exactly a square. 5 3/4 tall and 5 7/8 wide. And then you can either place the mat and then draw a diagonal so you know on the pattern paper so you can cut it right, or you can go measure up from your pattern paper, measure up 1 7/8 inches, and then cut it at a diagonal. Okay, so let's put that on our page. Again, it's open to the opening part is on the left. I'm going to place this pocket like so. So put glue on the 1/2 inch pieces. Line it up on the side and across the bottom. So this will be open so you can slide things in easily. Okay, and I would put my pattern paper on first, and then you can glue it into your book. Okay, so this is page 1, 3, and 5. So again, lay this, once you have it ready, lay it down onto your hinge. Don't go all the way in. I like to leave a little bit of space. Look at the top and the bottom to make sure that it's even. If it is, hold down, put it down, and then put adhesive on the hinge, glue it down, put glue on the hinge and across the bottom, and then you would attach it like so. And then your inserts, when you turn this page over, your inserts go in the top, and that's your back. Okay. One more page style. This is a good book for a beginner, if you ask me. Okay, one more page style. Again, this is the 5 7/8 by 12. We folded it in half at 6. You have 2 of these. It should be opening on the left-hand side. The 2 pieces that we are working with then are the 4 1/2 by 6 7/8 and the 5 by 3. So these are pockets. So we angle off the squares in the corner. And miter at the top. And you can do that on the other piece too. Let me get my scripts. Okay. Go ahead and burnish all your score marks. Okay, so opening on the left, the 1/2 inch is going to the left-hand side so that you have a pocket going this way, and we'll place the other pocket down here so you have a pocket this way. Okay, now I'm going to do these 2 together first. So I've got my 1/2 inches tucked underneath. And I'm going to line it up. Okay, and then I'm going to attach it to my base page. I'm going to turn it sideways so it's easier for me. So the opening is now is at the bottom and all the way to the end. Burnish it on. Okay, so there you go. Pocket, pocket. This is page style. You'll have 2 of these, so it's pages 2 and 4 in your book. Now, when I put my pages in, I start at the back. I don't know why, I just do. So this would actually go on hinge 4. I'm going to lay it down, not all the way tucked in. Now, I would have the other page attached. So before I do any gluing, I want to make sure that everything is lining up top and bottom. Once again, I would open it, hold my paper down, put adhesive on the hinge and push it down. We want to keep the top open for our insert, so then you'd put glue on this side of the hinge now and across the bottom. Close it, burnish it, there you go. And again, you're going to have an insert that you tuck in so that you see this on the other side. Okay, so I did take a shortcut with my tutorial. Hopefully, though, it was still clear and easy to understand. You go ahead and do the decorating the way you want to do, and some people like a 1/4 of an inch border on their mats instead of an 1/8, so that's totally up to you. Let me just go ahead real quick and just walk through that book real quick in case you need a reference. Okay, magnetic closure. Page style 1, angled pocket with a pocket. I didn't put anything in there yet. Here's a cut apart. I do have one of the charms. So because there's an insert, this lifts up and it comes out. Okay, page style 2, pocket down at the bottom, pocket on the right. On the back, there's the insert. You lift up and it will come out. Okay, and then I just put mats underneath my belly band. All right, that is Love You Forever. It's a nice tutorial, or excuse me, it's a nice book to start with if you're new. It goes pretty fast. So the materials, again, are from Country Craft Creations. Stay tuned for more tutorials. Thanks, guys.